Okay, so before I dive into the mess my life turned into, I need to set the stage. I, 17M at the time, now 22, didn't expect the one person who would help me completely flip my life upside down would be my stepmom. Yeah, my stepmom. But first, let me give you the rundown. My mom passed away when I was 10. Cancer. Quick and brutal. My dad was wrecked for a while, but then, about 2 years later, he met Stephanie at some community church event. She was younger, bright, bubbly, kind of a Pinterest mom on steroids. At first, I wasn't a fan. I mean, who would be? She wasn't my mom. But she never tried to replace her. I respected that. Over time, I softened, especially because she was weirdly invested in me. Not in a creepy way, just, she actually noticed me. My dad? Not so much. I think he was happy to let Steph handle the emotional parenting, if that makes sense. I was always a quiet kid. Into tech, gaming, coding. I used to stay up late modding Minecraft and building dumb bots for Discord. My dad thought it was a waste of time. Why don't you go outside like normal boys? He'd say, always with that low-level disappointment. But Stephanie? She watched me rebuild an old laptop once and straight up said, "You know you're kind of a genius, right?" I laughed it off, but man, hearing that felt good. Like someone finally saw me. Then came senior year, and everything changed. It started with a school project. We had to do this career preview thing. Most people just shadowed their uncle at the car dealership or interviewed their dentist. Me? I built a basic mobile app for scheduling and reminders. It wasn't fancy or anything, but I posted it in a small online dev forum just for feedback. It blew up. Well, blew up in a niche nerdy way. A startup founder DM'd me asking if I was open to doing freelance UI work. I was freaking out. I didn't even know what to charge, hell, I didn't even have a PayPal set up. I showed the message to Stephanie, expecting her to say something like, "Don't get your hopes up." But she didn't. Instead, she said, "Let's make you a portfolio. And an alias. You can't use your real name until you're 18 anyway, right?" Wait, what? She pulled out her laptop and helped me come up with a fake name, Eli Coder. Cringe? Maybe. But hey, it stuck. We made a basic portfolio site and started funneling communication through a separate email account. She even helped me open a Stripe account under her name so I could get paid. This was our little secret. I was still in school, still living a pretty average teen life. But by night, I was designing dashboards and writing code for real money. Not huge paychecks or anything, but for a 17-year-old, it was insane. My first payout was $600. Stephanie baked a whole cake to celebrate. Dad didn't even know. And this is where the double life began. To everyone else, I was just a quiet senior who played too many video games. To Stephanie, I was Eli Coder, a budding freelance dev. And the more I leaned into that identity, the more I started to feel alive. Confident. Like I wasn't just existing. But double lives? They're hard to juggle. Stephanie insisted we keep things quiet. "Your dad wouldn't understand," she'd say, and I believed her. She wasn't wrong. Dad already gave me grief about wasting time on screens. If he found out I was earning money online under a fake name, he'd lose it. Still, I started lying more. Telling him I was at the library when I was working at a cafe on a client's website. Pretending to be asleep when I was on Zoom calls at 2 a.m. with dev teams in other time zones. And through all of this, Stephanie covered for me. At first, it felt harmless. She was helping me chase something real. Something bigger than the small town we were stuck in. But every secret has a cost. The first time it really hit me was the night my dad came home early from work. I was in the den, laptop open, deep in a bug fix, talking out loud to a guy from Sweden on a Discord call. I didn't hear the door open. What the hell is this? I nearly knocked my laptop off my lap. My dad stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. I stammered something about schoolwork, but he wasn't buying it. He stormed in, grabbed the laptop, and tried to make sense of the code on screen. "Is this some kind of hacker crap?" Stephanie swooped in like a lifeguard at a drowning pool. Hey, he's helping me with something. It's just a little side project I asked him to do. Chill. Her tone was light, but her eyes told me to shut up and let her handle it. My dad, clearly annoyed but not wanting to argue, muttered something about weird computer junk, and went to bed. That night, Stephanie came to my room and closed the door. You need to be more careful, she said, sitting on the edge of the bed. He doesn't get it. He won't get it. But I do. And I believe in you. Just don't screw this up. She didn't say it like a warning. She said it like we were co-conspirators. And looking back now, that night marked the real turning point. That's when I crossed the line from teenager with a cool side gig into living a life my own father didn't even know existed. It was thrilling, terrifying, addictive, and I had no idea just how deep it would go, or what it would eventually cost me. Stephanie and I doubled down on secrecy, becoming even more meticulous in our efforts to conceal the truth from everyone else. So she started coaching me like a manager. No joke. She helped me get a second-hand iPad so I could draw mock-ups and do quick turnarounds. We even made a shared spreadsheet to track the hours I was billing. She called it our little business. Our business. At first, that felt kind of sweet, almost wholesome. But I should have known. I should have seen the signs. The late-night pep talks, the way she started closing my door when she brought snacks, like she wanted to be part of the world I was building. She was pushing boundaries, and I let her, because honestly, she was the only person making me feel like I had something real to offer. Then came Leo. Leo was a startup bro from Austin, launching an AI-powered productivity app, because of course he was. He found my site, emailed me with, "Hey Eli, your UI work is tight. You open for a 4-week gig?" I showed the message to Stephanie, and she grinned like we hit the jackpot. This dude wanted a fully custom front end. Pay rate? $1,200 a week. That was more than my dad made in 2. I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know if I could do everything he wanted, but Stephanie? She was already printing out onboarding notes, drawing timelines on a whiteboard like she was my personal assistant. "Let's make this your first real contract," she said. And it was. I signed it, well, Eli did. All routed through her email and Stripe. We started a routine. I'd work after school and through the night. She'd keep Dad distracted, handle emails, and clean up anything that looked too adult for me to deal with. But that's when the double life started bleeding into everything else. I stopped showing up for stuff, family dinners, school events, even hanging with the 1 or 2 friends I had. My dad thought I was being moody, or lazy. I let him think that. Stephanie told me to. He doesn't need to know how much you're making. It would just make things harder. She wasn't wrong. But it felt off. Like I was playing dress up with a version of myself that wasn't supposed to exist in this house. At school, I was just the quiet kid. At home, I was invisible. But online? In the world Stephanie helped build for me? I was somebody. There was one night, it was pouring rain, and I just pulled an 11-hour workday for Leo's team. We were pushing toward a product demo, and I'd barely slept. Stephanie walked in with a hot chocolate and sat on my bed like she always did. "You're killing it," she said. "You know that, right?" I nodded, dead tired, fingers aching. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You're going to get out of here. You're going to have options. That's why we're doing this." We. She kept saying we. It didn't hit me until later, but it wasn't just my double life anymore. It was ours. And I think, maybe she liked that more than she should have. Around that time, Stephanie started asking for little favors. She wanted me to redesign her blog. Then she wanted a Shopify store to sell her essential oils and handmade soaps. I did it, no questions asked. After all, she was the reason I had all this in the first place. Then one day she asked, "Hey, mind if I pull a little from the Stripe account? Just to cover some supplies for the store? I'll pay it back." That should have been a red flag. But I said yes. Because honestly, it still felt like she was doing more for me than anyone else ever had. And if she needed a couple hundred from Eli's account, who was I to say no? Then Leo's project wrapped up, and I had $4,800 sitting in that Stripe account. But when I checked the balance, it showed $2,600. I stared at the screen like I'd forgotten how numbers worked. I confronted Stephanie that night, real quiet, like I was scared my dad would hear. "Hey, did you take more from the account?" She didn't even flinch. "I used some for the store. And the new router for your room. And the mic you said you needed?" "I didn't say I needed a mic," I said, voice cracking. She rolled her eyes. "You said you wanted to do video tutorials. You need to invest in yourself, right?" The worst part? I had said that. Offhandedly. Days ago. I didn't even remember. But suddenly I realized something. This wasn't our business anymore. It was hers. And she was managing me like a product. After that, I changed the password on the Stripe account. I didn't tell her. I opened a private email and a secret crypto wallet just in case. I was still a kid, but I was smart enough to know when something didn't feel right. She noticed the shift almost immediately. "You're being distant," she said one night. "Are you hiding something from me now?" That hit hard. Because yes, I was. And for the first time, I felt like maybe she wasn't just helping me chase a dream, maybe she was chasing something of her own, using me to get there. The scary part? I wasn't sure if I even wanted out. I liked the life. The money. The control. For the first time ever, I wasn't just my dad's kid, I was someone. But keeping secrets from Stephanie? That felt dangerous. Because she wasn't just my stepmom anymore. She was my partner. And maybe that was the biggest mistake of all. Because there's a weird kind of comfort that comes with juggling two lives, until they crash into each other, and you're left holding the shards. That crash came faster than I expected. It started with something small, a school project. Our English teacher had assigned a presentation on a personal growth experience. We were supposed to talk about something we'd learned, struggled with, or overcome. Easy enough, right? Except, my real life didn't feel like real life anymore. The only thing that felt like growth was my design work. But I couldn't talk about Eli. Not without explaining how I became a teenage freelancer with a fake identity and a secret financial account run through my stepmom. So I made something up. Gave a canned story about learning time management through sports, even though I hadn't touched a ball since middle school. I thought I pulled it off. But my teacher, Mrs. Kramer, pulled me aside after class. She said something that stuck. "You're very articulate when you want to be," she said. "But this felt like you were hiding something." I laughed it off, but inside I panicked. If she could tell I was faking it, who else could? That night, I got home to find Stephanie pacing the living room. "We have a problem," she said before I even dropped my backpack. Turns out, Leo had emailed her. He wanted me, Eli, to do another sprint for the next phase of his app. Bigger scope, higher pay. But now he wanted a Zoom call. With video. Not optional. "He thinks you're in your 20s, she whispered. "You can't just turn on the camera and say, 'Surprise, I'm 17. I just stood there, brain spinning. "Can you fake it?" she asked. "Grow some facial hair. Maybe dim the lights." She was serious. Like dead serious. And I was so caught off guard I just nodded. So the next day, I skipped school, slouched in front of a webcam in my dimly lit room, and prayed that poor resolution and confidence would do the trick. Stephanie was just out of frame, coaching me with hand signals like I was landing a plane. And you know what? It worked. Kind of. Leo bought it. The call lasted 15 minutes, and he was all business. Didn't ask my age. Just sent over the new contract, and asked me to hit the ground running by Monday. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt sick. Because pretending to be someone else wasn't just a hustle anymore. It was a lie I couldn't walk away from. That weekend, the walls finally started caving in. My dad got the mail. One of Stephanie's essential oil clients had sent a check, made out to Eli K. Now, remember, that name didn't exist anywhere in our family. And my dad's sharp when it comes to stuff like that. He held it up like a puzzle piece that didn't belong. "Who the hell is Eli K?" Stephanie froze. She glanced at me, just for a second, and that was all it took. Dad noticed. He started grilling her. Is that some online friend of yours? Are you using someone else's business for your store? She tried to brush it off, saying the client was confused and used the wrong name. But my dad's not an idiot. He doesn't let go once he smells something off. And then, the worst possible thing happened. He found the iPad. Not just the iPad with all the mock-ups, chat logs, invoices, and the Eli Design Company folder wide open. Game over. He called me downstairs like I was being summoned to trial. What is this? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Stephanie wasn't there. She'd left to pick up groceries, and I was suddenly very alone. You've been lying to me, he said. This isn't some school project. This is a business. With strangers. On the internet. Under a fake name. Still, I said nothing. You used her, he added. Stephanie. She let you run wild, and you took advantage of her kindness. And that's when something in me snapped. No, Dad. She helped me. He stopped mid-rant. I kept going, heat rising in my chest. She's the only one who actually believed I could do something. You just wanted me to keep my head down and get a job at your buddy's tire shop like that's the best I could ever do. He stared at me like I'd just grown horns. You're 17. You think running a fake identity and doing God knows what online is better than having an honest job? I made more in 2 weeks than you did all month, I said, and I regretted it the second it left my mouth. His face turned red. Not angry, hurt. And that hit harder than I expected. Then Stephanie came home. Grocery bags in her arms, oblivious to the firestorm she was walking into. Until my dad exploded. Did you know about this? She dropped the bags. Tried to play dumb for a split second, but then her voice wavered. I was trying to help him, she said. You never saw what he could do. He's talented, and nobody gave him a chance, so yeah, I helped. You enabled him, he shouted. You kept this from me. You lied to me. The house felt like it cracked open. My dad slept on the couch that night. Stephanie cried in her room. I sat in mine, staring at my iPad, wondering if Eli was dead for good. The next day, I logged into my client dashboard. Leo had already paid the first week's invoice. But for the first time, I didn't feel proud. I felt like I'd built something amazing, and poisoned everything I cared about along the way. That poison lingered in the air, thick and heavy. After the blow-up with my dad, the house felt like a landmine field. Stephanie tried to keep the peace, but everything between her and my dad turned icy. They weren't yelling anymore. That would have been easier to deal with. No, they went quiet. The kind of silence that says, I don't trust you anymore. And me? I was stuck in the middle. Half of me wanted to apologize and throw the whole double life in the trash. The other half couldn't stop. I was in too deep. Because here's the truth, Eli, the fake me, was thriving. Leo referred me to another client. Then another. Within a month, I was balancing 3 contracts, a spreadsheet full of due dates, and a to-do list longer than my SAT prep guide. I was designing UI kits, running onboarding flows, even giving feedback to junior devs like I was some kind of expert. And it felt good. Really good. Until it didn't. Because every win I racked up as Eli started to cost me something as me. I stopped hanging out with my friends. Missed a dozen texts from my best friend Jake before he gave up trying. Skipped out on the school dance because I had a late-night design sprint. Barely showed up to class some weeks, and when I did, I was nodding off or catching up on mock-ups under the desk. Mrs. Kramer called me out one day after class. You've got something going on, she said. Something big. You're smart, and I don't know what's pulling you away, but if you don't slow down, you're going to break. I laughed it off. Said I was just tired. But she wasn't wrong. At home, my dad barely looked at me. He talked to me if he had to, but not with me. It was like I was grounded, not officially, just spiritually. He didn't trust me anymore, and honestly, I didn't blame him. Stephanie tried to patch things up, but even she started pulling back. She looked tired. Guilty, maybe? I caught her staring at her phone late at night with a worried look more than once. I thought things might settle eventually. They didn't. Because then my dad made his move. He shut it all down. I came home one day to find my iPad gone. My laptop too. He'd gone into my room while I was at school, packed up every device I used for freelancing, and locked them in his office. I freaked out. "Are you kidding me?" I shouted. "That's my work. I have clients. Deadlines." He didn't yell. Didn't raise his voice once. "You're done," he said, flat and cold. "You want to play adult? You do it when you're not living in my house under my rules." I turned to Stephanie, expecting backup. She looked down. That hurt worse than the betrayal. Later that night, she knocked on my door. "I didn't know he'd do that," she said softly. "I tried to talk him out of it." "Yeah? How hard did you try?" I snapped. She flinched. "I was trying to protect you. We were both trying to protect you," she said. "You're still a kid, even if you don't feel like one." I didn't answer. Just stared at the blank spot on my desk where my iPad used to be. Then she did something I didn't expect. She handed me a phone. It wasn't mine. It was hers, a spare burner she said she used for travel. Loaded with Signal, encrypted apps, the whole nine. "Only use it for emergencies," she said. "And don't tell your dad." My stomach turned. Here she was, again, helping me keep secrets. Digging the hole deeper. Making it easier to lie. But I took it. Because that's the thing about double lives. Once you start, the lie doesn't stop when you want it to. It stops when it blows up. So I rebuilt. Late nights. Quiet taps. Working off that burner and a borrowed Chromebook from school. I met my deadlines. I even started saving for my own gear, telling myself I'd be fully independent soon. But no matter how much money I made, I couldn't buy back the trust I'd lost. I couldn't buy back my dad's respect. Or the way Stephanie started to look like she didn't recognize the kid she'd helped create. Then the twist came. Leo, my golden client, messaged me one night. He wanted to meet. In person. He said he'd be in town for a tech conference, and wanted to take me out to dinner on him, a thank you for all the killer work. I stared at the message for a full 5 minutes, heart pounding. There was no getting around it. I couldn't fake this behind a screen. I couldn't dim the lights and wear a hoodie. If I didn't show, I'd lose the contract. Maybe worse, he'd figure out the truth. Might even report me. There were legal consequences to pretending to be someone else. I'd crossed lines I couldn't uncross. And if I did show, I'd have to become Eli for real. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. Eli wasn't a character anymore. He was becoming me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw headlines. Teen impersonates adult freelancer, faces legal trouble. Or worse, I imagined Leo showing up, realizing I was just some high school kid, and laughing in my face. Calling me a fraud. Telling every client I'd ever worked with that I was a joke. But the worst thought? That maybe I deserved it. Still, I got up the next day, put on my best button-down, and told my dad I was going to study at the library. He grunted without looking up from his paper. Stephanie followed me to the door. "You sure about this?" she asked. I didn't answer. She handed me a folded 20. "Just in case you need to get away fast." It felt like a line from a spy movie, or a prison break. I took the subway downtown and walked to the restaurant. It was some trendy sushi place that looked like it only served influencers and venture capitalists. My palms were sweating. When I got there, Leo was already at the table. He stood up and grinned. "Eli! Man, it's great to meet you in person." And he didn't blink. He didn't flinch. No double take. No awkward pause. Nothing. Just shook my hand like I belonged there. I sat down, heart pounding in my ears. He started talking, about the projects, about his startup, about the next phase. And then he leaned in. "You know," he said, lowering his voice, "when I first started working with you, I knew something was different. You're smarter than most of the freelancers I've dealt with, cleaner work, better instincts. But you also had that fire. Like you were fighting for something. I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled and nodded. Then he added, "Look, I don't care how old you really are. I've seen your work. I've paid you. You've earned your place." My stomach flipped. Wait. What? He knew. "I figured it out a while ago," he said, sipping his drink. "The time zone stuff didn't add up. Your email habits were weird, always working late, only replying at certain times. So I did a little digging. Nothing deep, I swear. Just enough to confirm my hunch." I just stared at him, frozen. He leaned back. "But I never said anything because I didn't want to screw it up. I need people like you. Scrappy. Hungry. Smart. So, you're not going to report me?" I asked, barely able to breathe. He laughed. "Report you? Dude, you're making me money. Why would I ruin that?" I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt sick. Because in that moment, I realized I wasn't scared of getting caught anymore. I was scared of who I was becoming. After dinner, I walked home in a daze. Stephanie was waiting for me in the kitchen. My dad was in the other room, watching TV, or pretending to. "Well?" she asked. I sat down and told her everything. Every detail. Leo knowing. The fake name. The burner phone. The lies. The fact that I didn't even know if I wanted to stop. And then I said, "I think I need help." Stephanie just nodded. And for the first time in weeks, she looked relieved. "We'll figure it out," she said. Together. That night, I turned off the burner for good. Over the next few weeks, I started untangling the mess. I emailed Leo and told him I had to walk away, told him I wasn't who he thought I was. He tried to talk me out of it, but I held firm. I started therapy, something Stephanie quietly arranged without telling my dad. I dropped the act, focused on school, and slowly started reconnecting with friends I'd ghosted during my freelancing high. It wasn't easy. It felt like peeling off a second skin. But I was done living two lives. My dad and I, we're not perfect. We still argue. Still walk on eggshells sometimes. But when I told him the truth, the whole truth, he didn't scream. He didn't ground me. He just sat there and said, "I don't know who you are anymore." And I told him, "Neither do I. But I'm trying to figure it out." Stephanie? She's still in my corner. Still the one person who never let go, even when she should have. I used to think her support pushed me into the double life. But now I see it differently. She didn't create the lie. She gave me the courage to stop running from it. Update. I still get messages on the old Eli account sometimes. New clients that offer money. I ignore them. Because that part of my life is over. And while it gave me confidence and skills I never thought I'd have, it also cost me trust, relationships, and a piece of who I was. But in the end, I think I needed to fall into that secret world, so I could finally learn how to live in the real one.